Welcome to all the people longing for a scare on Creepy Island. Join us as we venture into the shadows of 3 abandoned buildings with hidden secrets. Prepare yourselves for chilling true tales of those who braved these haunts and barely escaped with their sanity. Now let us begin our descent into darkness, the demented dungeon. Our first story takes place at an old, decaying hospital on the outskirts of the small town of Willow Creek. This hospital was shut down over 20 years ago due to unsanitary conditions and rumors of unethical medical practices. Since then, the decrepit building has sat abandoned, slowly rotting away. Of course, this made the hospital irresistible to local thrill-seeking teenagers looking for a scare. 2 friends, Mark and Rachel, decided they would sneak into the abandoned hospital one Friday night to explore the creepy halls. Under the cover of darkness, Mark and Rachel approached the crumbling hospital, finding a broken basement window they could crawl through. Gripping their flashlights tightly, they hoisted themselves into the dark, damp basement. The air smelled strongly of mold and rust. They swept their flashlight beams over abandoned gurneys, rusty medical tools, and piles of decaying papers. As they crept up the stairs to the main level, Rachel gripped Mark's arm nervously. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. Mark paused, straining to listen. Were those voices? Cautiously, the pair tiptoed down the hall toward where flickering light spilled from a room up ahead. Peering through the doorway, Mark's eyes went wide with shock and fear. Inside, a group of 10 or so people dressed in long black robes stood in a circle chanting eerily. Dark candles cast wavering shadows over the room, but most blood-curdling was the fact they were all gathered around a large pentagram painted on the floor. "We need to get out of here," Mark rasped to Rachel, pulling her back from the doorway. They turned to run, but Mark barreled straight into a tall, robed figure. "What are you doing here?" the man demanded in a growl. Rachel screamed as hands grabbed at them, the strange cultists having noticed the teenagers. Mark and Rachel broke free and sprinted down the hall, the stomping footsteps and shrieks of the cultists echoing behind them. They flew down rotting stairs, through corridors and back to the basement, gasping for air. A blood-curdling scream from the upper floors sent chills down their spines. Scrambling out the basement window, the teens ran and ran until the abandoned hospital was out of sight. They collapsed on the ground, reliving the terrifying chanting, robed figures and screeches. After that night, Mark and Rachel never returned to those ominous grounds, grateful they escaped with their lives. The Asylum of Agony. Our next true story of an abandoned building comes from an old insane asylum called St. Dymphna's, built in the late 1800s. It was home to countless disturbed souls for over 60 years before being shut down in the 1950s under allegations of patient abuse. Since then, St. Dymphna's Asylum has sat empty, yet the tortured souls of past patients are said to still wander its sinister halls. 2 daring friends, James and Sam, decided to visit the infamous asylum to film a YouTube video about its haunted history. Arriving in the dead of night, the looming Gothic building sent shivers down their spines. Pushing open the creaking front doors, they stepped into a large foyer layered with decades of dust. Flipping on their cameras, James and Sam ventured deeper into the foreboding darkness. As the young men explored the former bedrooms and common rooms of the asylum, they began hearing odd noises. Distant cries and whimpers echoed down the long corridors. The sound of their footsteps changed as if someone was following behind. But each time they spun around, no one was there. Turning a corner, Sam let out a sharp yelp that echoed off the asylum walls. Plastered on the peeling paint were decades-old medical diagrams of dissected brains and anatomy, intermixed with strange, archaic, occult symbols drawn in a rusty brown substance that looked disturbingly like old, dried blood. This had once been the wing where St. Dymphna's most criminally insane residents were kept in isolation. James shuddered imagining the depraved experiments and torturous treatments that must have happened in this corridor over a century ago. The further Sam and James journeyed into the belly of the beast, the more the uneasy atmosphere pressed down upon them. The very air felt heavy with the echoes of anguished souls. Their flashlight beams could only penetrate a few feet in front of them, leaving the rest of the corridor swathed in terrifying darkness. Rounding a bend, they came upon a large room that appeared to be an operating theatre from the early 1900s. In the center sat a hulking, rusted metal table stained a dark, ominous brownish-red, hinting at unimaginable horrors. Trays of terrifying medical tools dotted the room, caked in more of the same reddish-brown residue. As Sam's flashlight beam nervously swept over the room, both boys froze in their tracks. There, in the far shadowy corner, barely illuminated, stood the unmistakable silhouette of a woman in a nurse's uniform. Her face was obscured by shadows as she hovered over the operating table, seemingly unaware of the two intruders in the room with her. James felt his blood turn to ice, the hair on his neck standing straight up. "We should not be here," he uttered breathlessly. As the ghostly nurse figure vanished as suddenly as she appeared, an anguished wail echoed through the room, sending shivers down their spines. Gripped by terror, Sam and James fled St. Dimphna's, praying they could escape the tortured soul still trapped within its walls. The Devil's Lair. The final spine-chilling abandoned building tale we have to share occurred at an old decrepit house hidden deep in the dense forests of Wisconsin, rumored to be intensely cursed by demonic forces. Locals refer to this foreboding place as Devil's Playground, due to the frequent strange noises, flickering eerie lights, and grotesque demonic figures said to occupy the rotting house. Those rare few who have dared to enter Devil's Playground have fled in absolute terror within minutes, frantically warning others to stay far away unless they want to take their last breath inside its godforsaken walls. Such chilling warnings only added to the allure for local high schoolers seeking a thrill on Halloween night. 3 cocky teenagers named Sam, Jake, and Erica were bored on Halloween and looking to stir up some excitement. They had heard the urban legends about the so-called Devil's Playground, but laughed them off as fake ghost stories meant to scare kids. To prove their bravery, they decided to break into Devil's Playground and live-stream their exploration, cracking jokes about the likely lack of any real scares inside. "The freakiest thing we'll see is probably just a few bats and a bunch of cobwebs," chuckled Sam arrogantly as they approached the decrepit 2-story house hidden down a long, neglected dirt road. Spotting a broken first-floor window covered in once white curtains, now dingy and grey with age, the 3 teens crept inside, stepping over the weathered floorboards. Their cocky jokes and jump scares for the camera died down quickly as they began wandering the interior. It started gradually with little changes to the atmosphere, strange creaks and groans from the supporting timbers, skittering sounds in the walls, the faint sound of whispering voices from unseen entities. The further they explored the cobweb downstairs and upstairs rooms, the more uneasy they became. "Let's just go, guys. This place is seriously creepy," Erica insisted as they approached a worn wooden door leading to the basement. But Sam and Jake were too proud to leave without concrete proof of the paranormal. Despite Erica's protests, they descended the rickety staircase, their flashlights illuminating a shocking scene that burned into their memories. Right in the center of the large dirt basement floor was a giant pentagram smeared with dark crimson stains that could only be blood. Surrounding it were melted down black candles, piles of bones from various small animals, and a massive ancient book bound in what looked unmistakably like human flesh. Dark, viscous stains were splattered across the stone walls. Sam gasped, Jake shrieked, and Erica instantly broke down sobbing, having sensed the evil lurking down there from the start. Fleeing up the basement stairs, they were met by a swirling black mass emerging from the shadows, its blood-red eyes burning with malevolence. An unholy howl reverberated through the house, shaking the teens to their core. Slamming themselves desperately against the front door, it finally heaved open and they spilled out onto the moonlit ground. Without looking back, they sprinted wildly into the dark forest, branches whipping their faces and tearing their clothes. Their screams and sobs echoed through the trees as they ran for their lives down the overgrown dirt road. Sam tripped on a root, crashing hard onto the ground, before being yanked back up by Jake and Erica. Finally reaching the car, they collapsed trembling. Shaking with adrenaline and primal terror, the 3 vowed solemnly to never speak of what they witnessed in Devil's Playground again. The footage was far too twisted and disturbing, and could potentially attract or unleash more of that evil presence. This was no joke or prank gone wrong. The malicious ghosts and demons dwelling within those decrepit walls were terrifyingly real. What they stumbled upon in that basement was pure, demonic evil. They had foolishly barged into a true gateway to hell and were lucky to escape with their lives. And those are three true terrifying tales of abandoned buildings. Will you dare to enter crumbling asylums, haunted hospitals, and demonic houses in search of thrills? Let these chilling stories serve as a warning. Some places are better left undisturbed, for you never know what nightmares lurk in the shadows inside, hungering for fresh souls. Now, I hope you liked the video. If yes, then do press the like button and also subscribe for more scary tales.